There we go.
Continue. Thank you, Shelley, and hello, everybody. And thank you for being here. It's so nice to spend some more time with you guys. For those of you that may not have met me in previous sessions, I'm Koralee, and I'm a professional organizer and virtual partner. I work with busy people and overstressed people who are looking at ways to simplify their lives so they can become more productive and efficient in their day to ultimately have more time to do the things that they want and love to do. And I've been passionate about organizing for as long as I can remember. And I'm so grateful to be able to do what I do and help people simplify their lives and de-stress their lives through a variety of different ways and solutions. I'm a mom of two amazing ladies who attend UBC, and I've been married to my partner in crime for over 27 years now, which is crazy. And we're both from the interior of BC, so we love the outdoors and we enjoy getting on the road and heading up there whenever we have the opportunity, though this year has definitely been a challenge with that for sure. So to get the most out of today's session, I recommend you trying to limit any distractions around you. You can close any open programs on your computer or phone and grab some paper and a pen. Though I will be sharing some slides with Shelley that she can email out to you later this week as well, so you can use that as reference as well. And as Shelley said, we will have time at the end of the session to answer any questions that you may have and to review different areas of the presentation. But along the presentation, if something comes into your mind that you want to ask, put that into the chat box, and Shelley will be monitoring that, and we'll try to get to that. But if we do miss it along the way, just know that we will get to it at the end of the presentation. So today we're chatting about time management and different ideas to help us get the most out of this amazing, powerful practice. So let's get started. So I always like starting with a cool quote from somebody, and this is from Steve Jobs. He says, my favorite things in life don't cost any money. It's really clear that the most precious resource we all have is time. And unfortunately, time just seems to be going by so quickly for everybody that I talk to. So time is very important. So what does it all mean anyways, is time management? Time management is just a fancy little term, I guess, which means it's a process of organizing and planning how we divide our time between specific things that we do and activities that we do. And practicing time management enables us to work smarter so that we can focus and identify our priorities and get more things done in ultimately less time, even when we may feel that we're under time constraints. There's multiple benefits of time management. A lot of them are listed here. So it reduces our stress, it increases our productivity, brings mental clarity to us, helps build efficiency into our schedules. It allows us to identify and prioritize what's important to us, encourages our healthy habits, improves our focus, increases our confidence, minimizes distractions, makes us feel accomplished and empowered. And you could probably put a whole bunch more on this list as well. But unfortunately, when we're feeling out of control and our time is like disappearing in front of us, it's not a good place to be. Things can get neglected, our anxiety can increase, our stress can increase. It feels like we're taking on too much, time's just disappearing, and we can get easily distracted. It's just not a fun place to be, and this poor guy kind of summarized it in this picture. So let's chat about all that and look at some ways that we can implement time management strategies into our day to eliminate some of those awful feelings and increase some of the benefits that it can provide to us. So where do we even start? We're going to talk about 5 different areas of time management that all tie in and filter up to success in this area. So the first one we're going to chat about is creating a master schedule, on using agendas and task lists, working on our daily routines, executing and automating and editing throughout the process, and of course, the most important part, remembering our self-care. So the first area is creating a master schedule. And this can be quite a daunting process, especially if you haven't been doing this for a long time or ever for that matter. And this is a process where we need to collect and identify all of the different responsibilities that we have, all the interests that we do, the activities, the different deadlines, important dates in our life that are really important to us, and maybe not even important, but things that we have to get done on a day-to-day basis, and things that are taking up our time on a day-to-day basis. From there, once we identify things, we can also keep track of our time, and I highly recommend doing this for a 1 week period or possibly 2. And this will really allow us to identify throughout the day where we spend our time and what activities are taking up most of our time. I also suggest here to color code the different things that we do throughout the day. So school can be one color, work can be one color, home responsibilities can be another color, and the such, so that at the end of your time tracking, that you can quickly look at that sheet and quickly identify where most of your time is going, and also where your patterns of behavior and time, current time management falls. So that when you start breaking it down and trying to create a better schedule for yourself, you can easily manipulate that information. And then once everything is onto this nice big master schedule, we can work on tweaking it by putting into time blocks or time themes. There's a little bit difference between those two, but time blocking is using an allocated block of time in your day to focus on one specific area. Or one task, I should say. Time themes is a little bit more general, where say you want to block off Monday mornings to work on history, or say the afternoons between 3 and 4 or 5, you're going to be working on this particular subject or area of your life. And you want to have this posted in front of you as you move forward, because things change and you want to be able to tweak and adjust accordingly. So the next part is using agendas and task lists. So once we know where our time is going and we kind of have a visual now of how our day-to-day looks like and things that we do, we want to break down those times into smaller chunks of time using agendas and tasks. And we can create separate lists here as required. For me, that is very helpful. Instead of having one long running task list, I have multiple lists or task sheets depending on the project that I'm working on. And you may find that helpful as well. So when we're breaking down that time, we want to be specific with our responsibilities, the goals that we have, the deadlines in front of us, and we want to work backwards from those requirements to be able to allocate enough time to be able to achieve those goals, especially with school deadlines or anything work-related deadlines where we are accountable to another person, anything like that. We want to make sure that those are all in place and allocated properly in our master schedule. Set reminders for ourselves along the way as well. At the beginning of the year, we all get our syllabus, we know what's responsible, we know where things are coming in, the due dates, what's all that kind of stuff. And we're a little bit as well, you know, we have projects, we have our deadlines as well. So when we have those set reminders so that we know, there's 2 weeks left to get this in, or there's 3 weeks left to get this in, or 2 days, what have you. And this will really help us to not forget about things and not get caught off guard. And then all of a sudden we're in a panic because we forgot a particular element of a project that we're working on. Big thing here is also to check things off as completed. It may seem kind of obvious to do, but when you have a task list in front of you, it's super rewarding when you see everything being marked off. And at the end of a busy day, sometimes you go like, holy smokes, where did that day go? I feel like I didn't accomplish anything. But then you can look at your task sheet for the different projects that you have and see clearly that you accomplished so much that maybe you remembered you had. And then here too, you can experiment as you go along with different types of task lists or sheets, create something that's really kind of fun or cool for yourself, whatever works for you, feel free to experiment and use them as needed. Third area is working on our daily routines. Once we identify our tasks that we require to accomplish the things that we need to accomplish throughout the week, these almost automatically become our habits, but we can be really mindful through this process as well and start building on existing habits that we already have, because everything just filters up to create a better, more efficient and productive master schedule for us. So here's another great way to review and prioritize the top 3 things that we have going on at any given time. And we want to pre-plan here. So set time for ourselves at the beginning of the week or the day before to review what needs to be done the following day or the following week, and get those onto your agendas and onto your task list. Here you can use a planner or journal to track your goals and your progress here. I just use a plain binder, honestly, and I have a whole bunch of tabs in there for the different things that I work on. If you've heard of bullet journaling, you can look that up. And I kind of created my own little system around that. I'm definitely not as creative and artistic as what you may see if you do Google bullet journaling, but it works for me because it allows me to take up 3 pages if I need to, or just use 3 lines one day. So it's very, very flexible that way. Really important to review everything on a regular basis and tweak it as required. Things change, things are thrown onto our laps, things are adjusted. That's just life. So we don't want to take that personally. We just want to make note of that, be mindful of the changes, and to get that into our schedule accordingly. And reward ourselves along the way as we're working on our different goals that we set for ourselves, the habits that we are working on, and tracking that progress. Once we get to the whatever line that is that we want to get to, set a reward for yourself and make that happen. And of course, be kind and mindful with yourself throughout the process as we're working on new habits and routines. You know, we can have a tough day or a hard day, a bad week or what have you, but that is totally normal. So by reminding yourself to be kind and just be mindful of that, it will help to get back on track in a quicker fashion. And then we just rinse and repeat. And over time, our habits definitely turn into our different rituals throughout the day, and our routines, and our routines will turn into our rituals. And at that point, it just becomes second nature, and we don't even end up thinking about the things that we need to do. We just kind of do it. Excuse me. Execute, automate, and edit. So when we're going through all of this process of identifying and creating a master schedule and creating our agendas and our task lists and working on our daily habits and routines, that's all fine and dandy. But if we don't take action, then it's really all for none. So we want to work on our habits and daily routines regularly. And try to take out the decision take out the decision out of the process and automate as much as you can here. So this is something to think about by simplifying the different things in our life that we do on a day-to-day basis. So it's the food that we eat, the clothes that we wear, the appointments that we keep, the day that we do laundry, like all of those kind of things. By simplifying the process and scheduling that into our regular routine in our schedule, it allow us to not even think about that. You know, grocery shopping happens Sunday night, for example, and it's always set on Sunday night. And that way we have decent food for us throughout the week that we don't even have to think about what we're going to have, because we know there's something in the cupboard, there's something in the fridge for us to grab. Minimize multitasking whenever you can. And I know this is a really tough one. There's so many distractions that come onto our plate every single day. But when we need to hunker down and focus on one thing, try to minimize as much distractions as you can so that you can really focus on that task at hand. And it's okay to edit, change, and create new habit schedules and routines as we go along. Life changes, we evolve, things happen, and we change our minds. So just know that this is a natural part of the process, and to change that on a regular basis when needed. And if you're having troubles figuring this out or putting this all together, grab an accountability partner. Find a friend or a peer or somebody online, you know, somebody that you're living with, because we're all going through the same thing and working towards, really, at the end of the day, similar goals and objectives. So finding somebody that you trust, that you can talk to and view things with, can be really, really helpful here. And of course, be consistent. Kind of like the underlying message with everything. Take action and be consistent. And the last one, and definitely the most important one in my eyes, is remembering our self-care, because this is something that we can easily forget, and it's just so important to do, especially now when we're all kind of locked down again and we've been working out of our homes for as long as we have. It's really important to give ourselves a break, and we need to schedule it in, because it's so easy for days to go by or a day to go by, and we haven't gotten enough to take care of ourselves. To focus on consuming whole nutrient-dense foods is part of that. This goes back into pre-planning, your meal prep at the beginning of the week. Drink plenty of water, have your water bottle in front of you at all times, and make sure that you're sipping it consistently throughout the day. Surround yourself with inspiration and keep current with any of your medical appointments. This one's really important, and right now, there's a lot of the profession has moved into online practices and appointments or phone appointments. So if you're delayed a few things that you need to take care of, be sure to make a note and get that taken care of. Take a digital detox every now and then. We can get sucked into social media and all the rhetoric that's online on the internet and all that such. And it can get kind of sad and depressing sometimes. So it's okay to take a time out from that, put your phone away, shut down your computer, and just be mindful and work on a project or a hobby that you love to do. We talked about this the other week about stretching our eyes and our body consistently, and this is another one that is easy to forget to do throughout the day. So it's really, really important, because now we're at home working on ourselves or by ourselves for the most part. So get up and stretch our body and make sure that you're stretching our eyes as well. And take advantage of self-care programs that are available to you on campus and through SFU online. You can just Google that and see what could be available on there if you need to talk to somebody, or there could be other programs as well that resonate with you. And we need to get outside, even in the pouring rain. Let's get outside and get some fresh air, get some vitamin D on our skin from the sun when it's out, and just take some deep breaths out in nature. So in summary, to help us stay in control of our time, we can create a master schedule. So this, identify all the areas that we're responsible for throughout the week or the month, and plunk that into a master schedule so we see exactly where our time is, and we can tweak it along the way, and using our agendas and task lists to help to do that. Working on our daily routines and habits, of course, that all filters up into the tasks list, and then that also filters up to making our master schedule work and flow properly for us. Executing, automating, and editing along the way. Of course, if we don't take action, nothing happens. Find that accountability partner if you're struggling with this a little bit, and just start putting something together to make it more efficient for you. And of course, the most important part, remembering our self-care and scheduling that into our day. So a couple of tips and tricks here. Just remember that if you're seeing certain people or people doing certain things or routines that are really working for them, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. So play around in creating new habits and routines until you find something that feels natural for you, that feels right for you, and just keep at it and tweak it along the way. Tracking your progress is really important. It's so rewarding to see, at the end of the week that you've done an X goal, 5 out of 7 days, or even 2 out of 7 days. Just seeing that you're working towards something like that is very, very motivating and empowering. Taking consistent action, of course. Plan for your day and your week, the week or the day before. So on Sunday, if Monday's the first day of the week for you, or if you consider it the first day of the week for you, plan your week out the Sunday before. This will help to minimize any last-minute surprises that may come up, things that you may have forgotten about to schedule in, that kind of stuff. And same thing with your day. On your day, look at your day the night before you go to bed and pre-plan a little bit so that it's out of your mind, and it'll help for you to get a more restful sleep as well. And you'll be just more ready the day to jump in and start having a productive day. And let's declutter our minds by delegating whenever we can, asking for help, setting reminders throughout the process, and keeping our calendars up to date. And of course, if you need any help, please reach out. There's a variety of different resources and people that you can do that with online or by phone, by email, whatever works best for you. Ask those questions, find different inspiration in your community, pull ideas from different friends or resources, and put together your plan and just start working towards making it more better for yourself. So thank you so much for coming to the end of this mini workshop. And so we can spend some time here going through some questions, or anybody want to review a different area? That to me went by really fast.
You did. That was great. Does anyone have any questions? You feel free to
We'll stop sharing this.
Feel free to write something in the chat or put up your hand or just turn on your mic and ask.
Yeah.
I have a question, actually. What about those times, as far as time management goes, where I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, maybe I'm the only one, where some task seems so overwhelming that even though it's there, you just can't get started. So you put it off, hoping it'll go away. I don't know. How do you make how do you make something like that not seem as overwhelming?
Yeah, well, there's a saying to eat the frog first. There's that book, and I apologize, I can't remember the name of the book, but it's all about starting to tackle your least favorite task or most demanding task first, and don't put it off. Because by putting it off, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then procrastination starts setting in, right? We can shut down. We'll just kind of ignore it and think, oh, you know what? I'll get to it tomorrow. But then another 2 days will go by. So by being mindful about that, and it can be hard though, making that decision to leap into that, because it can feel so overwhelming. But when you do, and when you just start chipping away at it, it is so empowering, and you just feel so motivated and accomplished, even if you just get like a little bit done, that it just kind of snowballs from there.
So it's okay to get just a little bit done at a time. Like if I say, like, this is a huge project, I'm going to set a timer and do just 15 minutes of it right now.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because when we're so overwhelmed, we can just become mentally paralyzed, and we just don't even know where to start. And this is the same thing when I'm working with clients with clutter, like physical clutter as well. Sometimes they just don't know where to start because to them it's so overwhelming. But just by starting in one area or breaking it down and going, you know what, we're just going to focus on this one drawer, this one aspect of this project, then it just the energy changes, your focus changes, and your mind goes, you know what, that's not that bad. I can do this. And then you just kind of roll into it.
I have a few people with questions, so I'm going to go through in the order that they've. So, break overwhelming tasks. Callie said break overwhelming tasks into many small steps. Absolutely. Anuki said she has a question. Did you want to unmute and ask your question? And then I have a couple more after that.
Yeah, thank you. Also a great presentation. I really enjoyed listening and watching. But my question was, what's the difference between time blocks and time themes? I'm just a little confused about that.
Yeah, that's kind of like a new thing that's kind of come up in the industry. Time blocking is where you look at everything that you need to get done and you time block off a chunk of time to focus on that one particular task. And that could be a bit hard if you're just starting to create a master schedule and you have all of these things that you need to do. That can be a bit hard to do right from the get-go. So time theming is more general based. So you go, okay, I am responsible for school. I have all my school projects, but I'm also responsible for a bunch of things at home, and I also work. So you have these three main time themes. So you can, instead of getting granular and really specific at what needs to be done within that time frame, you just block off that time as a theme. So that time is school. This is work. This is family time. This is whatever, right? And then from there, you work backwards with your tasks and your agendas and stuff to get more granular at that point.
Okay, and I think that
Hanuki?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much.
And I think Christina had that same question about the time blocks versus time themes. We also have Emily said, do you have any tips for feeling guilty for taking breaks and constantly moving on to the next thing? I feel guilty when I take a break because I feel like I should always be working.
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, and you know what? It's human nature. It's human nature for this. And maybe, like, I don't know how long your breaks are, or how often you're taking them, but maybe it'll help you if you take just shorter breaks and take them more often. Right. And then maybe that will help you so that you don't lose complete focus, because sometimes we just get into a tunnel vision and we get on a roll, right? But those can be also dangerous because 3 hours can go by or 4 hours go by and we haven't taken a personal break. So maybe just by taking smaller breaks throughout that time will help you. But that's something that you have to be mindful about for sure, because we cannot feel guilty or shouldn't feel guilty about taking care of ourselves. But that is so common. It's so common that we do.
I think it's really important to just remember that you need to revitalize your engine. Like I don't know how many of you have ever stayed up like super late studying and like done it for a few days in a row, and then you're so exhausted that you can hardly function. Like you're damaging your machine. You want to keep your machine in order. So yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And even, I mean, just the simple thing with having water in front of you and sipping it. Like we used to call water energy when the girls were younger, and because we were just trying to think of ways for them to drink more water. and then so we started drinking more water with them. Like, oh my gosh, you know what? You actually do feel a lot better after taking a sip of water. So it's just, just kind of being mindful of that, having things easily accessible for you in front of you so that you can do those things.
Another question that was here is, how do you handle unexpected tasks and tasks that end up taking longer than expected? How do you handle every day is spontaneous and things that you have to do and how long they'll take? Can I say something that I like that has helped me with this? I have found, and then I'll let you, I have found for me that if I have charted if I've gone through my day and put in my main tasks and the big things are blocked in, and then I've labeled them sort of like, these are my A tasks, these are my B tasks, these are my C tasks, and which ones are priorities. When something unexpected happens, I can throw some of those C tasks to the side and adjust around the thing that becomes an emergency, so that I make sure I get my priorities done, but I can throw away things that can go to the next day or whatever and work on the things that come up unexpectedly. That's something that I do for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think over time too, that becomes easier to do. When we practicing keeping a master schedule and what we have to do to get done and breaking it down into different tasks and stuff like that, it does become easier and we become more mindful with our time. And also sometimes just saying no. And we talked about this in a previous session, right? That can be really hard to do, especially when we want to do everything, and then guilt can come in the place as well. We don't want to say no because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or we feel guilty because I'm working on this and somebody may not know. But it does get easier through practice. And when you do identify, like Shelley said, your top 3 priorities that you need to get done in your day, it allows you to create buffers within your day so that you can accommodate when those things do come up.
So I recognize it's 1 minute to 4 o'clock. We have about 4 more questions that we can get through. Koralee, are you able to stay for that? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anyone else, if you'd like to leave, you're welcome to leave. You stayed till 4. You were welcome to leave anytime, but so I'm just going to go on to the questions now.
Can I just, before we go to the next question, can we just chat a little bit about next week? Because next week does really relate into this the subject, because next week we're going to be talking about schedules, and my daughter has created a way to turn or to automate, take your syllabus and put it into a schedule so that you can easily keep track of all of that stuff. So she's going to share that with us. So I just wanted to say that before people start dropping off, if that's something that you think could be helpful with you, then be sure to register for next week, and we'll be going through that, and it will be a demo.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's going to be great. I'm excited to see next week. Just tips for motivation to get started on projects or assignments. Again, my tip is always just start. Like
I was just gonna
seriously,
say,
like if you just like put pen to paper and do like
Yeah.
one thing, it's a great way to get started. But
yeah,
also
yeah.
breaking it down so it doesn't feel overwhelming. But yeah, go ahead, Koralee.
Yeah, I was going to say just do it. And I know that's tough love and it's not really fancy or whatever, but you just have to take the time to break it down, like Shelley said, into the different tasks and to just start. Just start. Like with any big project, you just have to start and keep track of it.
And don't look to the end of it. I just have to say, so sometimes when I used to run more, I would sometimes if I was running on a long flat road and I looked too far out at where I was headed, it felt overwhelming. So I'd start looking closer down to where my feet were. So it felt like I didn't have as far to go. So
Yeah.
don't think of the whole project. Just think of the little piece that you're working on now, and eventually the project will be gone.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true. Like your analogy is bang on. Bang on. It's like with anything, you know, if you want to reorganize your room or straighten things out somewhere, yeah, that's a big thing that I talk to my clients about all the time. Is just start somewhere small and just keep on chipping away at it, and then pretty soon it'll be done, and you won't even know. And keeping track of your progress too, right? I know for me, my morning thing that I started is meditating and reading every single morning, and I keep track of that. And so I get motivated to see how many days in a row, and it's almost like a competitive thing that I have now with myself because I don't want to break my streak.
Yeah,
Right?
totally get
So
that.
yeah, so keeping track could help with that as well.
Stephen has a question. Stephen, would you like to unmute and ask your
Hmm.
question?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much for your presentation, by the way. It's really insightful. I learned a lot. So thank you for that. So my question was, as you mentioned a point that's saying after identifying your tasks, prioritize your top 3 to do. My question was, say if you have multiple different tasks to do, so say you have 2 papers, a midterm, and you have 2 assignments, and you have so much to do, how do you prioritize your top 3 when you have multiple different tasks to do?
Yeah, that is a juggling act for sure. And I see that in my house all the time. And that is a really a tough one, Stephen. With that, you really have to be clear, like leading up before that process happens, right? So when you're starting to put together your master schedule, you're looking at all those deadlines and when they're due. And I'm assuming we all know in advance when those are. And so you want to plunk that into the schedules and then work backwards to allow yourself enough time and enough buffer to be able to come into those weeks when your schedule is so compact like that. So that is not such a last minute panic, because really you can't get around that when you have your exams and everything is scheduled and due in such a short period of time. That is what it is, and you're unable to change those dates or those due dates or requirements, right? So when you get everything up front, my only suggestion is to get that into a big schedule, work backwards so that you know and give yourself adequate time and reminders that, you know, this is coming up in 2 weeks, or I have, you know, 5 more days for this or 3 more days for that, and just work backwards to try to accommodate and take as much pressure off of yourself as you can in those moments.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And good luck to you. Good luck. Oh my gosh, because I know there's a bunch of exams going on right now for some. So yeah, stressful time.
2 similar questions. One is digital detox. Could you clarify it a bit? And the other question was, how do you take a break from things like the computer or those kind of things when everything we do right now is online? So all classes are online, all meetings are online, this workshop is here. We're always at our computer. So how can you take time from that?
Yeah, so digital detoxing is really just taking a break from social media and online presence. So it can mean different things to different people. And there's a lot of challenges out there as well, where they say, you know, 1 week digital detox, which is really unrealistic for a lot of people. But if you're feeling overwhelmed and you have so much going on your plate right now, just know that it's okay to turn off all of your notifications, remove those things off of your phone so you're not attracted, or, you know, the notifications aren't coming in, and just leave it for a day. and then focus on the things that you need to focus on and get clear, in your mindset, because mentally it can be so exhausting and such a huge distraction when all these things are in our face all the single time or every single time. But you're right. We're inundated with technology, and that is not going to change. So when it comes to digital detoxing, we still want to participate in things that we need to participate, of course. We still want to be engaged with the things that we find of interest and that we want and love to do, of course. But when things are being filtered to us that are out of our control and are, I guess, without our permission, that's when we want to kind of say, you know what, enough. I'm just going to focus on what I want to focus on for a day, or make it a week, whatever works for you, whatever you feel comfortable in doing. Start with a day, start with half a day, and just see how that may make you feel. And then you can build upon that from there.
I mean, sometimes it may mean deleting some apps,
For
right?
sure.
You may have too many apps pulling your like obviously turn off your notifications but sometimes you have so many ways of communicating, and part of the excuse is I can't see people in real life, so I have to have like 25 different apps that people can communicate to me on. Well, maybe you limit it.
Yeah.
And you schedule it the same way you would schedule going for a coffee, as opposed to people being able to chit chat with you all day long and keep you online all day long.
For sure. And one thing that I've chosen to do with my business is I don't get emails on my phone. And when I decided to do that, this is so long ago now, people thought I was insane because everybody was getting their emails on their phone, and just like, how can you communicate and blah blah blah. And I was like, well, emails coming in is an interruption of my time. And when we're interrupted all the time, it takes like way more time for us to get refocused and back on track with whatever we were working on at the time. So I thought, I'm just going to do that, try it out. If it's an emergency or somebody needs to get a hold of me, they know how to get a hold of me. My number's in my email, whatever. But after all these years, I've had like a handful of people reach out because of emergencies. It can wait. It can just wait. And another thing with emails too, because emails can get so distracting, is unsubscribe from newsletters and emails that you are getting. Try to unsubscribe from a handful every single day, and that will help to minimize your inbox noise. Or what you can also do is create a completely separate email address that has nothing to do with anything else on a day-to-day basis, but that is the one address that you use for newsletters or to give to retail outlets when they ask you for your email to send you your receipt. And then all of that just gets dumped into that one email. And your inbox that you check on a regular basis for all your important things aren't inundated with things that don't really matter.
Thank you. We have a question here just about, and I think someone gave some answers to this. Do you have any tips for constantly underestimating the amount of time a task will take? And the recommendation would be double the amount of time that you might estimate. I have a cousin who makes fun of me all the time because we'll plan something. I'll say, well, I have to leave at this time to get there. And she's like, well, no, it only takes like 20 minutes. I'm like, no, she's always late for everything. So I'm like, no, I always allow extra time. So
yeah, definitely create buffers. And if you do go through the process of a time tracker, so if you do that for a week or two, and actually that's one of the handouts that I'm going to give you, Shelley, to email. It's an Excel spreadsheet. It's really basic, but you can print it off or just do it on your computer, whatever. By keeping track of your time, you'll really see how much time you're spending on certain things, because it's so true. In our heads, we're telling ourselves, it's only going to take me 20 minutes, but in reality, it's taking 35, right? So we always, I think that's just human nature. We minimize that time requirement because we all fall into that pattern. So when we keep track of our time for a certain period, length of time, a week or two or whatever, it becomes really apparent how much time we're spending on certain things, because our time can disappear with things that we think we're only spending half an hour checking our phone, but then 2 hours go by or whatever, Yeah, it can be shocking. It can be eye-opening.
I don't think I think I've covered most people's questions, unless there's anyone else who has one last question. What?
Quick question.
Oh.
Okay.
Who's? Oh, go ahead. Yes.
I can turn on my camera. It's kind of better just to talk in person. I have a question kind of a lot about what you mentioned about like master like schedule. I did try that, and for me, it was kind of overwhelming to like have everything on like digitally, seeing like this is time for me to have lunch, this is time for me to work out, this is time for me to do this. Like, how do you think I could adapt that? Because for me, that's just way too much. And right now on my master plan, all I have is just like time for classes, and that's it. So
Yeah, you can make your master schedule as granular and as you want. But if you find that overwhelming, don't do it. I don't do it to that level. I think the initial process of tracking your time and work and putting everything on an initial master schedule is so that we are very aware of where our time goes and the amount of time that we require to do the things that we do. And then it allows us to really analyze that and to figure out places where we can tweak it, where we can pull back, make some changes and all of that stuff. But initially, it's really important to go, okay, well, this is my morning routine. I need an hour for that or whatever, so that when you are working to create a master plan that master schedule that works for you, you're aware of all that time that you require for your personal side and everything else. But yeah, don't make it granular if it's stressing you out, because we're all different. We all think differently. And for me personally, that would totally stress me out too. I don't do it like that. I just do it more in chunks.
I often block in the important things, like this is work time, right? And
Yeah.
these are things, and then I keep just a list to check off for other things. So it's like, here's the block where I'm doing this, then I have like work out, eat, whatever, right? And then I
Yeah.
can check those off on the list that's to the side, because I fit them into the empty spaces. And it doesn't matter which empty space, because I may not feel like working out at one of the empty spaces, but I might feel like eating at that point. Usually.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eating's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a couple of people commenting on deleting social media apps and other people agreeing that social media is a waste of time. And as an old person that's here right now with you guys, and who gets sucked into social media quite easily myself, I just want to say, I like that people are agreeing that social media can be such a waste of time, and that there are times to take time away from social media.
There is, and we really need to be mindful with the amount of time that we spend on social media. It's the world that we live in. It is not going away. If anything, it's going to become more and more challenging to be able to separate ourselves from it. But by starting now and just knowing that we are in control, ultimately, like we are in control of our time and our day, and then by turning it off, the world's not going to end. You know, things are going to be there as soon as we turn it back on, but sometimes we just need that mental break to minimize that noise that is just being, you know, forced in our face every single day. It's just not natural. It's not a natural place to be, but it's hard. It is hard. It's one of the hardest things for people to pull away from and to separate from, but just doing a little bit, you know, every now and then, it'll become easier. And then we'll realize, holy, you know what? The world's still here. My friends are still there. I didn't miss anything. Yeah, and it just gets easier.
And maybe tracking how much, this is something for me, is tracking how much time I actually spend being social on social media, as opposed to just sort of going through, like I'm flicking through it so fast and I'm actually just it's almost like watching a TV show, and I'm just sucked into that, as opposed to actually using it as a way to facilitate social interactions.
Right. But also using it like a TV show, that's fine as well, as long as it's not distracting you or pulling you away from more important things that you have to do, right? It's when it starts becoming mindless. If it's mindful and you know that's what you're doing, because a lot of times, you know what, if my husband's on watching a football game or whatever, like I'll use that time to scroll through, because I'd rather do that than necessarily watch the game, you know? So yeah.
Okay. Any last questions? Final thoughts. Okay, because we're gonna have to wrap it up sooner, or else this Zoom session is gonna just end on us. So
just cut us off. Well, thank you everybody so much. If there's no other questions or whatever, I really appreciate you all being here and taking the time to spend it with Shelley and I today. it's just awesome. I love the energy and I love being here. So I appreciate you all so much.
And hopefully you'll all be able to make it next week for the how to work your calendar and incorporate everything into your calendar. And we'll probably have some room in there to answer some more questions that relate to a lot of what we talked about today. So
yeah, and my daughter will be answering those questions.
very cool.
She's the one that's going to be doing the demo, and
Excellent.
yeah, because she kind of created this Excel thing to be able to transfer that all in. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, and
Thank you,
we will
everybody.
see you next week.
Yeah,
I'm
next
going
Tuesday.
to I'm going to end this now. I just have to tell people that because I feel rude just ending it. I'm
I
turning
know.
this
It's like a
off.
hard. That's right.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Have a great night. See you
Bye,
next week.
everyone.
Bye.